Words are not simply sounds or marks on paper. They are vibrations that shape how we perceive, how we connect, and how we influence both ourselves and others. When we begin to observe more deeply, it becomes clear that every word carries within it a frequency. This frequency has the power to heal or to harm, to uplift or to diminish, to open possibilities or to close them. It is easy to underestimate the influence of words because they move through us so effortlessly, but when we become attentive, we notice that what is spoken has the ability to alter moods, shift directions, and transform relationships. Think of a time when a single word lingered in your memory far longer than the moment it was spoken. Perhaps it was encouragement that sparked courage, or perhaps it was criticism that left a scar. Both reveal the same truth: words carry energy. This is why entire traditions emphasize the importance of speech. Some traditions encourage silence, not because words are useless, but because the misuse of words can disturb the mind and heart. Silence in those moments becomes a way of purifying the energy that speech has scattered. Yet when words are used with mindfulness, they can restore balance, awaken strength, and inspire clarity. When someone speaks from anger, the vibration is sharp, heavy, and piercing. Those who hear it feel the disturbance immediately. The energy clings, and even after the sound fades, the mind replays it again and again. On the other hand, when words are spoken with compassion, the vibration is gentle, grounding, and warm. Such words do not merely communicate information, they transfer calmness into the listener. They create a space where the heart feels seen, the mind feels safe, and the spirit feels nourished. In this way, the words themselves become a form of energy medicine. It is not only the words spoken to others that matter, but also the words we speak to ourselves. Internal dialogue is a constant stream of energy that we either pour into ourselves or withdraw. If the self-talk is harsh, filled with judgment, and critical in tone, it corrodes confidence and creates tension within the body. Muscles tighten, breathing becomes shallow, and the nervous system interprets these words as a form of attack. But if the self-talk is steady, encouraging, and aligned with growth, then the body relaxes, the breath deepens, and the mind prepares itself to face challenges with resilience. What we tell ourselves becomes the energy we live inside, and that energy radiates outward. Words also shape the spaces we inhabit. A household where conversations are dominated by complaints and blame feels heavy, and those who enter it sense the tension even without knowing the details. A household where conversations are filled with gratitude, encouragement, and listening feels light, and visitors notice the ease. This shows that words not only carry energy individually, but also accumulate collectively. Over time, repeated patterns of speech create an energetic atmosphere, either nourishing or draining. To change the atmosphere, the choice of words must change first. When ancient teachings emphasize mantras, chants, or prayers, they are pointing toward this truth. Repetition of certain sounds is not merely a ritual, but an energetic practice. The vibration of those words shapes the body, the breath, and the mind. Scientific studies on sound show similar effects. Frequencies affect the brain waves, the heartbeat, and even the cellular responses of the body. Words are vibrations, and vibrations create reality. Even silence between words carries energy. A pause, when held consciously, allows the weight of a sentence to settle more deeply. The energy of the word extends into the silence, echoing and amplifying. Too often, people rush to fill the silence, scattering the energy before it has time to anchor. But when silence is honored, words gain more strength. One word spoken from clarity and then followed by silence can be more powerful than 1,000 spoken without awareness. When speaking with others, it is helpful to observe the intention behind the words. Is the intention to dominate, to prove, to criticize? If so, the energy carried will reflect that. Is the intention to guide, to uplift, to connect? If so, the energy will transmit accordingly. Intention shapes the vibration before the word is even spoken. One can feel the difference between words that come from a reactive mind and words that come from a centered heart. Awareness of the energy in words also demands responsibility. To recognize that what we say has consequences means we must choose carefully. Careful does not mean restrained or artificial, but rather conscious and aligned. When words arise from alignment, they do not burden the speaker nor harm the listener. They flow with clarity and leave behind openness. Energy carried by words is not bound to the moment of speaking. It continues to ripple. A kind word spoken today may be remembered years later, giving someone strength in a moment of despair. A careless insult may also be remembered, creating hesitation or fear that lasts long after the sound faded. Words echo inside memory, shaping beliefs and self-image. This is why many wounds are invisible. They are carried not on the body, but in the energy of words absorbed long ago. To transform the way we live, attention to words is essential. It is not enough to train the body or discipline the mind if speech remains careless. For speech is the bridge between thought and reality. What is spoken shapes what is possible. Words repeated often become beliefs. Beliefs direct actions. Actions form habits. Habits create character. Character shapes destiny. Tracing it back to the origin, it is clear that destiny begins with words, and words are nothing but energy released into the world. The more we observe, the more we notice how much energy is moved by the smallest utterance. A greeting carries openness or indifference. A question carries curiosity or judgment. A story carries hope or despair. To refine speech is to refine the way energy flows through life. It is to become aware that with every word, we are either aligning ourselves with harmony or disrupting it. It is to recognize that words are not trivial. They are the invisible threads weaving the fabric of our inner and outer world. There are moments in life when everything seems scattered, fragmented, and undefined. In such moments, clarity does not arrive in the form of long explanations or complex teachings. Instead, it often condenses into a few simple words. Words that cut through the fog. Words that stay in the heart longer than any elaborate doctrine. Words that hold within them an entire universe of meaning. Simplicity does not reduce the depth, it amplifies it. The more we strip away, the closer we come to the essence. In the path of wisdom and growth, there are 5 words that can serve as both compass and mirror. They do not need to be spoken loudly. They do not need to be written on paper. But when remembered, they can change how one walks, how one breathes, and how one lives. The first word is silence. Silence is not just the absence of sound. It is the space where truth is revealed. In silence, one can hear the movements of the mind, the rhythm of the breath, and the subtle language of the body. Silence allows us to observe without judgment, to notice the thoughts rising and falling without being caught in them. The world is full of noise, yet most of that noise is unnecessary. It distracts, confuses, and scatters attention. Silence brings attention back to its center. When silence is cultivated, inner power begins to grow. From silence comes strength, from silence comes understanding, and from silence comes clarity. Without silence, there can be no true listening. Without silence, there can be no true seeing. Silence is the doorway to everything else that follows. The second word is discipline. Discipline is the structure that supports freedom. Without discipline, silence dissolves into laziness and energy disperses into chaos. Discipline is the daily practice, the consistent effort, the willingness to continue even when motivation fades. It is the act of training the body and mind to serve a higher purpose instead of falling to every passing desire. Discipline is often misunderstood as rigidity, but true discipline is flexible. It bends without breaking, it adjusts without losing strength. The discipline of a tree is not in resisting the wind, but in allowing the wind to pass through while remaining rooted. Discipline is the soil in which growth takes place. Without it, no seed can survive and no path can remain steady. The third word is energy. Everything in existence is energy. Every thought, every movement, every breath is energy in motion. Energy can be directed, transformed, and elevated, but it must first be recognized. When one is unaware of their own energy, it leaks away. It escapes in unnecessary conflict, in endless worry, in constant distraction. To hold energy is to hold life. To guide energy is to shape destiny. Energy is the force behind intention, the fuel behind action, and the presence behind awareness. When energy is cultivated, the body feels lighter, the mind feels sharper, and the spirit feels stronger. Every practice, whether physical, mental, or spiritual, is ultimately about managing energy, how to gather it, how to preserve it, and how to release it with purpose. The fourth word is alignment. Alignment is the harmony between thought, word, and action. It is when what you think resonates with what you say, and what you say is reflected in what you do. When there is alignment, there is no inner conflict. The mind does not fight the body, the heart does not argue with reason, and the spirit is not hidden behind doubt. Alignment is not achieved by force, but by removing contradictions. Many suffer not because they lack potential, but because their life is divided. They desire one thing, but act in another direction. They speak of peace but live in chaos. They dream of growth but resist change. Alignment brings everything back into one line, one current of energy moving in one direction. And when alignment is present, strength is multiplied, clarity is sharpened, and life becomes simpler. The fifth word is freedom. Freedom is not the absence of responsibility, nor is it the escape from effort. True freedom is the state where one is not bound by fear, not controlled by desire, not enslaved by opinion. Freedom is the ability to walk into silence without fear of loneliness, to maintain discipline without resentment, to hold energy without wasting it, and to live in alignment without compromise. Freedom is the natural result of the other four words, and at the same time, it is the beginning of deeper transformation. Freedom allows the spirit to expand, the mind to open, and the body to act with lightness. Without freedom, even the strongest discipline becomes a prison, and even the greatest energy becomes a burden. These five words, silence, discipline, energy, alignment, fair, freedom, are not concepts to be admired from a distance. They are living practices. They are to be carried in the heart, repeated in the mind, and embodied in daily action. Each one supports the others. Silence deepens discipline. Discipline preserves energy. Energy strengthens alignment. Alignment opens the door to freedom. And freedom returns us once again to silence, but now at a deeper level. Together they form a cycle, not a straight line, a wheel that turns endlessly and carries life forward. When we begin to observe the nature of chasing, it quickly becomes clear that it is not only about desire or ambition, but deeply about the energy we expend and how that energy flows. Chasing is not merely a physical act of running after something, it is an energetic posture, a state of being that reflects our relationship with what we seek. Every chase begins with a thought and intention, and from that moment forward energy is mobilized. To understand chasing is to understand the way energy is directed, scattered, or aligned. Most people believe they are chasing goals, opportunities, or people. But in truth, what they are engaging with is the momentum of their own energy. When you feel the impulse to chase, it is because internally there is a sensation of lack. Energy begins to push outward in search of completion. It is the energy of dissatisfaction seeking resolution. And when you operate from this state, the more you chase, the further the object of desire seems to move away, because the energy of need creates a magnetic field of resistance. You are broadcasting that you do not have what you are seeking, and the universe mirrors back that same frequency of absence. Chasing is often misunderstood as persistence or determination. Persistence is steady and aligned, rooted in clarity of purpose. Chasing, however, comes from restless energy, an unease that does not allow the mind to settle. The heart beats faster, the mind races, and the body follows impulses that are not always in harmony with deeper truth. When chasing, you are not flowing with energy, you are forcing it. And forced energy rarely produces balance. It creates tension, and tension is a signal of misalignment. Consider water flowing in a river. When it moves naturally, it encounters rocks, branches, and bends, yet it continues with ease because its energy is aligned with gravity and flow. Now imagine forcing that water against the current, pushing it to move in directions it does not naturally go. That is chasing, an attempt to manipulate energy instead of respecting its natural direction. The result is exhaustion, frustration, and often the collapse of the very pursuit you were chasing. Energy is never lost, but it can be wasted. When you chase from a place of neediness, your energy disperses. You may notice fatigue, doubt, or an unexplainable heaviness. This is the cost of scattered energy. You are not only moving towards something, you are simultaneously moving away from yourself. The center of your being becomes hollow because all energy has been projected outward. What many do not realize is that chasing does not always bring you closer to what you want. It often delays it. Energy projected without balance does not magnetize but repels. There is also another dimension to chasing. It is not only about what you pursue, but also about what you are running from. Many chase success because they fear failure. Many chase relationships because they fear solitude. Many chase recognition because they fear invisibility. In this sense, the chase is less about attraction and more about avoidance. But avoidance energy is heavy, unstable, and lacks clarity. It binds you to cycles of exhaustion because you are never truly running toward, only away. If chasing is about energy, then awareness of energy is the first step to transformation. To pause and observe your own state of being is to ask, what energy am I projecting? Am I chasing because I lack, Or am I moving because I flow? The difference is subtle but profound. One drains you, the other nourishes you. One is the restless pull of incompleteness. The other is the natural expansion of abundance. When energy is aligned, there is no chasing. There is attraction. What you radiate, you draw in. When your inner state vibrates at clarity, gratitude, and stillness, the external reality begins to organize itself in resonance. This is why those who seem calm and grounded often appear to attract opportunities, relationships, and circumstances with little visible effort. It is not that they chase less, it is that they understand the economy of energy. They know that by stabilizing the internal, the external must follow. Chasing is not inherently wrong. It is part of human experience to move after what we desire. But the question is not whether we chase, but how. Are we chasing with fragmented energy or with aligned energy? When chasing transforms into inspired pursuit, when the mind is clear and the heart is steady, then the movement is no longer restless but purposeful. It ceases to be chasing in the negative sense and becomes participation in flow. In stillness, energy gathers strength. In clarity, energy moves without waste. In alignment, energy attracts instead of disperses. To understand chasing is to understand these dynamics, to see that what we pursue outside is a reflection of what we generate within. If chasing feels exhausting, it is because the energy fueling it is not grounded. If chasing feels light and natural, it is because the energy is flowing with the deeper currents of life. Chasing is about energy, and energy is about awareness. Without awareness, chasing becomes compulsion. With awareness, chasing transforms into intention. One drains the spirit, the other elevates it. Energy cannot lie. It always reveals the truth of why and how we pursue. To observe the chase is to observe the story we are telling ourselves about what we lack and what we believe will complete us. And when that story changes, the energy shifts with it, altering not only how we chase but also what arrives in our lives. There is a common misconception that power is always about accumulation, about gaining more, holding more, and asserting more. The world often teaches us that the person who has the most wealth, the most control, or the most influence is powerful. But if you look deeper, if you step away from the noise of society's definitions, you begin to see that true power is not born from attachment to things, but from the freedom that comes through detachment. Detachment does not mean indifference. It does not mean abandoning your responsibilities or cutting ties with life. Rather, it is a profound inner clarity where you no longer allow possessions, people, or outcomes to define your state of being. When a person is attached, they are bound by invisible chains. The mind becomes restless, always calculating, always fearing loss, always clinging to what might disappear. The irony is that attachment creates weakness. You depend on what is external to stabilize what is internal. If that external thing shifts, if it leaves, if it changes, you are shaken. A person who is dependent on approval becomes powerless when criticized. A person who is dependent on wealth becomes powerless when fortune fades. A person who is dependent on relationships becomes powerless when separation occurs. But the one who practices detachment walks through life unshaken because their foundation rests on something that cannot be taken away. To live with detachment is to stand like a tree whose roots go deep into the earth. Storms may come, seasons may change, but the roots hold firm. You can bend with the winds, you can shed your leaves in winter, but you remain grounded. Detachment allows you to experience life fully without being consumed by it. You can love without clinging. You can work without being enslaved to results. You can engage with the world without losing yourself in it. This kind of power is not loud. It does not need to announce itself. It radiates quietly from within, and others feel it even if you say nothing. Many confuse detachment with coldness. They think that to detach is to care less, to close the heart, to step away from human connection. But in truth, detachment is what allows the heart to expand without fear. When you are free from attachment, you love more purely because your love is no longer a transaction. It is no longer tied to the fear of losing someone or something. It is a love that arises from fullness, not from need. That love is powerful because it does not bind, it liberates. In detachment, you also discover strength in action. The one who is attached to the outcome of their work is often paralyzed by fear of failure or consumed by desire for success. But the one who is detached does not stop acting. They act fully, they commit themselves completely, but they are free from the chains of expectation. Success does not inflate them. Failure does not crush them. Their energy is not wasted on constant internal struggle, and so they are steady, calm, and powerful in every step. Think about the way water flows. If water were attached to one shape, it could not move beyond it. But because it is detached, it adapts to every form, every obstacle, every path. It bends, it yields, and yet, with time, it wears down the hardest stone. Its strength lies in its ability to remain fluid, to not be imprisoned by form. In the same way, the human spirit is most powerful when it is free to move, free to change, free to release. Detachment is the state that allows this flow to happen. There is also a subtle truth. The things we cling to most tightly often slip through our fingers the fastest. Attachment creates a kind of desperation that suffocates what we want to hold. When you grasp sand too tightly in your fist, it escapes more quickly. But when you hold it gently, with openness, more of it remains in your hand. Detachment is this openness. It creates space. It allows what is meant to stay, and what is meant to leave, without your inner world collapsing. The greatest leaders, the wisest teachers, the most balanced human beings often carry this power of detachment. They may live in the world surrounded by responsibilities, possessions, and relationships, yet inwardly they remain free. They do not allow themselves to be consumed by desire, fear, or ego. This is why they are able to guide, to inspire, to remain calm when others panic. Their strength is not dependent on external circumstances. It comes from an inner stability born of detachment. Detachment is not a rejection of life. It is the art of living fully without becoming enslaved. It is stepping into each moment with clarity, without clinging to the past or becoming lost in the future. It is moving through the world with open hands rather than clenched fists. In this state, you find that power is not about controlling others, but about mastering yourself. The more you release, the more strength you discover within. True power, quiet and unshakable, comes from detachment. Every word spoken, every thought formed, every gesture expressed into the world carries with it an imprint of who you are. A message is never just sound or written marks on paper. A message is an echo of your inner state, a reflection of the alignment or misalignment between your inner truth and your outer expression. To speak from a place disconnected from yourself is to project an illusion that cannot hold its weight. To speak from truth is to allow the world to meet the unfiltered presence of your being. The message must mirror your truth, because only then can it carry the depth, the resonance, and the power that moves beyond mere information and becomes transformation. When a person communicates, there are layers within the message. There is the surface layer, the words chosen, the tone of voice, the gestures. But beneath that surface lies the current of intention, and beneath intention lies the truth. If the words spoken do not correspond with the truth, the listener will always sense a fracture, even if only subconsciously. Authenticity is a frequency that cannot be faked. It carries a weight that penetrates through appearances, cutting through pretense and striking directly at the heart. This is why messages born from truth endure, while those born from distortion are quickly forgotten. The process of ensuring that your message mirrors your truth requires inner work. It begins with knowing what your truth actually is. Most individuals repeat ideas, beliefs, and phrases that do not originate from their direct experience. They mirror the world rather than their own essence. To discover truth is to strip away the noise of borrowed opinions, conditioned patterns, and the pressure to conform. Silence becomes a teacher in this process. In silence, one begins to hear the raw voice of inner knowing, the part of you untouched by external approval or rejection. Only when that voice is clear can the message you share mirror the essence of your being. There is a reason why messages rooted in personal experience carry such magnetism. When someone speaks of what they have lived, the body itself vibrates with conviction. The words gain a force that cannot be manufactured, because behind them lies evidence, lived reality, scars, lessons, and wisdom that has been embodied. This is why the message must mirror your truth. For without that connection, you become an echo of someone else's journey, and an echo can never be as powerful as the original sound. Truth does not always come in the form of grand revelations. Sometimes it is simple, sometimes it is silent. Sometimes it is uncomfortable, even painful. But the power of truth lies not in its comfort, but in its clarity. When you allow your message to mirror your truth, you accept that not everyone will understand or accept it. Yet, you also realize that acceptance is no longer the goal. Expression aligned with truth becomes an offering, not a negotiation. It is given freely, not adjusted to please, and in this way it becomes timeless. Consider the energy of someone who speaks only to impress. Their words may sparkle for a moment, but soon they fade. Contrast this with the energy of someone who speaks from truth. Even in silence, their presence communicates more than empty words ever could. Their message is not bound by performance, it radiates from the core of their being. This is the distinction between sound and resonance, between noise and truth. When your message mirrors your truth, it becomes a frequency, and that frequency will always find its way to the hearts prepared to receive it. Alignment between inner truth and outer message also demands courage. It is far easier to hide behind socially acceptable words than to risk exposing the vulnerable truth that resides within. Yet, hiding carries its own cost. The more one distances from truth, the heavier the burden becomes. Misalignment breeds exhaustion, because it requires constant maintenance of a mask that does not belong to you. Speaking from truth, however, liberates energy. It frees the flow of expression, allowing the message to be carried with lightness and strength. In traditions of wisdom, it is said that words have power not because of their structure, but because of the energy carried within them. Energy aligns with truth. A lie may deceive the ear, but it will never deceive the soul. People may forget the exact words you said, but they will remember the vibration you carried when you said them. This is why every message must be crafted not merely with cleverness, but with sincerity. It is sincerity that makes the message unforgettable, sincerity that allows the message to mirror the truth of the speaker. There is also the responsibility of recognizing the difference between personal truth and universal truth. Personal truth is shaped by perspective, by history, by individual experience. Universal truth transcends these boundaries. It is the unchanging essence underlying all temporary forms. When your message mirrors your truth, it should draw from both dimensions. Personal truth makes it relatable, human, and real. Universal truth makes it timeless, relevant beyond your own life, and resonant with the core of existence itself. This balance is what transforms a message from a story into a teaching, from information into wisdom. The journey of ensuring your message mirrors your truth is not only about words, but about the life behind them. A message is not only spoken, it is lived. Every action, every decision, every silence is also a form of communication. The way you live can either validate or contradict the words you speak. To live in contradiction is to weaken your message. To live in alignment is to make your very presence a message in itself. People may never hear your speeches, but they will feel your truth in the way you move, the way you act, the way you exist in the world. In this sense, the message that mirrors your truth becomes not just a communication tool, but a path of practice. It becomes a discipline of returning to honesty with yourself, of peeling away layers of falsehood, of daring to be transparent. And in this discipline, the message evolves beyond words. It becomes the fragrance of your being, carried effortlessly, touching others without effort or intention. It becomes the silent teaching that requires no explanation, yet penetrates deeper than any explanation could ever reach. From an early age, the human mind learns to chase. It chases approval. It chases attention. It chases a sense of belonging. Somewhere along the way, that chase narrows itself into the idea of chasing a person. If I have him, I will feel complete. If I gain his attention, I will finally feel seen. If he chooses me, then my worth will be undeniable. These inner whispers create an illusion, a belief that fulfillment rests in the hands of another. But the real chase is not about him. The real chase is about discovering the part of you that no one else can give and no one else can take away. The moment energy is poured into the chase of a single figure, it begins to leak away from the self. Time is spent wondering where he is, what he thinks, how he feels, whether he notices. This constant mental dialogue shapes your energy into dependence. The mind no longer sits in its own center, it orbits around another. And the more you orbit, the more you forget that you are a whole world on your own. This is why so many lose themselves in the pursuit of another. They confuse external recognition with inner truth. If you strip away the layers of illusion, what remains is a very different understanding of the chase. The real chase is about stability of mind, balance of energy, depth of presence. It is about learning to sit quietly with yourself and not feel empty. It is about awakening to the fact that your power does not increase or decrease based on whether someone else chooses you. Your worth was never designed to be conditional. When the mind believes otherwise, suffering naturally follows. There is an old teaching that says, do not chase the reflection in the water, find the source of the light. The reflection will always shift, it will ripple, it will vanish when disturbed. But the source is steady. To live life chasing another person is to chase reflections, always moving, never solid, easily lost. To chase your own alignment is to find the source. When you discover the stillness within, no reflection can control your state. Many people confuse attachment with love. They think holding tightly is proof of devotion, but often it is proof of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of not being enough, fear of facing silence. The chase for him is not truly about him. It is about running away from these fears. It is easier to place all focus on another person than to face the mirror of your own mind. It is easier to drown in distraction than to sit in stillness. Yet transformation begins the moment you stop running and begin observing. To observe your own mind is to notice the patterns, how quickly it attaches, how desperately it seeks validation, how loudly it panics when attention is withdrawn. These patterns are not shameful. They are simply signs of the untrained mind. The work is not to deny them or suppress them, but to train them. The way a river is guided by the banks. Left alone, the river floods uncontrollably. Guided with awareness, it nourishes the land. So too with your energy. When it is poured recklessly into chasing another, it floods and leaves you feeling drained. When it is guided inward, it becomes a nourishing force of creation. There is a deeper freedom waiting when the chase ends. It is the freedom of not measuring yourself against the shifting actions of another. It is the freedom of walking into a room without hoping to be seen by him, but instead radiating so fully from within that your presence speaks louder than any words. This kind of freedom is not given by anyone. It cannot be handed to you. It cannot be stolen from you. It is earned by turning the chase inward, by reclaiming the energy that was once scattered. The real chase is about clarity. Clarity in what you want your life to be, clarity in the values you choose to embody, clarity in how you wish to carry yourself regardless of who comes or goes. Clarity is strength because it cannot be shaken by temporary circumstances. Without clarity, you become a mirror of others' actions, constantly shifting depending on who is in front of you. With clarity, you stand as your own pillar, unmoved even when the world around you trembles. The truth is, when you no longer chase him, you no longer lose yourself. And in that state, something remarkable happens. You begin to attract. Energy that is centered and grounded naturally draws others toward it. But even then, the attraction is no longer the goal. It is simply a byproduct. The real goal remains the inner chase, the pursuit of your own alignment, your own silence, your own power. Every time the mind whispers, if only here, pause and remember that whisper is a distraction. It is pulling you away from the real work. The real work is to ask, if only I would, what if you could cultivate your strength, your calm, your wisdom, your joy? What if the chase was no longer about gaining someone else's presence, but about deepening your own presence? What if instead of running outward, you turned inward and discovered the endless reservoir that has always been waiting? The real chase is not about him. It never was. It is about uncovering the one truth that does not vanish when people leave, the one source that remains steady when circumstances shift, the one fire that glows without needing permission from anyone else. It is about realizing that the person you were meant to pursue was always the self you kept overlooking, the self hidden beneath all the noise of longing, the self waiting patiently for you to return.